Hey guys, well, you've heard it all when it comes down to AI, but this is a new one. Google is apparently utilizing the Google Gemini model to, I kid you not, speak with dolphins. Now, dolphins are actually quite an intelligent species, if you aren't already aware. They have a fair amount of intelligence and they communicate not in the same way humans do, but they do communicate and they tend to communicate quite a lot of information. And it's always kind of been a wonder of our own species as to what these dolphins are talking about. Google aims to solve that issue once and for all and figure out what they're actually talking about. So we're going to go ahead and cover this because honestly, I think this is really interesting. Let's get right into it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and read this article by Google's own blog, DolphinGemma, how Google AI is helping to code dolphin communication. Now, they made a whole large language model specifically just to help study how dolphins communicate and figure out what they're even saying. They made a whole AI model for dolphins, which is insane. So, for decades, understanding the clicks, whistles, and burst pulses of dolphins has been a scientific frontier. What if we could not only listen to dolphins, but understand what the patterns of their complex communication means in order to actually respond back? AKA what Google wants, and also what the Wild Dolphin Project. So basically, Google did this in collaboration with Georgia Tech, which is a college, and WDP, or the Wild Dolphin Project, in order to, well, effectively get interspecies communication, which, quite honestly, isn't something we're really good at. Some animals can understand English. For example, domesticated pets can tend to have somewhat of an inkling as to what certain English words mean. Like, for example, you can train your dog or your cat on certain commands. They'll understand what, like, the word treat means if you associate it with, like, some kind of yummy snack or food. They'll understand some of those things, but they can't necessarily communicate back to you. This species, however, all things considered, we technically probably could communicate with dolphins to some degree. To be perfectly honest with you, it is entirely possible that we could, which is very bizarre if you think about it. We've never really had interspecies communication before, at least not on that level where we can actually, where the other species can respond back in something that we could understand. Now that Google is trying to figure out a way of, figuring out how these dolphins say things and, provide a similar response back, we could actually communicate with them. Which, again, I'm going to be honest with you. I never thought I'd say this. This wasn't on my bingo card for this year. There's a lot of things that have happened this year that I'm going to be honest with you, just haven't been on my bingo card. I didn't expect myself to be sitting here right now talking about the fact that in the near future we're going to be talking with dolphins. There's probably going to be like some kind of online dolphin chat room if you think about it. But seriously though, like, this is bizarre. So, understanding any species requires deep context, according to Google, and that's one of the many things the World Dolphin Project, Wild Dolphin Project, rather, provides. Since 1985, WDP has conducted the world's longest running underwater dolphin research project, basically creating a very, very large data set of tons of underwater video and audio meticulously paired with individual dolphin identities, life histories, and observed behaviors. There's a few things that they have been able to decipher from how dolphins communicate. Those things are specifically signature whistles, which are basically names, burst pulse squawks, which are kind of seen during fights. So I guess that's the dolphin equivalent of like an insult or something. And click buzzes, often used during courtship or when chasing sharks. So they've already correlated certain different sound types with different kinds of behaviors, but there's still other things that they don't exactly know. There's still a lot that they communicate that we don't really know how it works. So basically, there's some things, according to Google and WDP, that kind of matches language to a certain degree. There's some patterns and some rules that might indicate language. And what they want to do is they want to utilize DolphinGemma, which is a sort of multimodal. They call it a large language model, but I'm not really sure if it necessarily is. It's probably more like an audio model if you think about it. But apparently, the whole idea is that they want to utilize this model on Google Pixel phones as well. They made it small enough that it can run on Google's own phones. So what they do is they're making this like, if we go over here, they're making this like modified Google Pixel built to be underwater and, not gonna like electrocute you or anything, right? They're making this Google Pixel that you can kind of wear that runs this AI model in order to try to interpret and analyze dolphin sounds, which again is crazy. I didn't expect me to be sitting here talking about this today, but apparently this is something that's actually happening. Now, is this something we're going to see any actual personal use out of? No. We're not seeing use out of this right now anyways. We're not, right? This isn't something that the common person is going to end up using. But what it does go to show, and this is something I think is actually quite important. AI as a technology, whether you like it or hate it, will help us in some places because it allows us, assuming we use it right, assuming we don't mess it up, because there's a very well chance that maybe, just maybe, we'll have a Skynet scenario. It's possible. It's not completely ruled out. On a technicality, it's possible. So assuming we don't screw up, assuming we don't screw any of this up, AI could be a very, very useful tool for our species, our society, our livelihoods, because it's going to allow us to understand things that we've never been able to understand previously. We are going to be able to figure out so much and understand so much that we wouldn't have been able to figure out for years and years. This is going to accelerate our progression as a species by like a trillion fold, assuming we don't screw it up, that is. That's my personal belief. It's a disputed belief, I know. And not everybody's going to agree with me. And admittedly, I don't like all uses of AI. There's some things that, quite frankly, I don't think AI is ever going to be truly useful for. There's some things that I don't think AI should be used for. I'm not like an all around AI lover. There's some things about it that I'm iffy on. But what I do believe is the fact that in general, large language models can very much so propel our species in a learning aspect. I feel like it will help us learn so much and be able to digest so much important information to the point where we're going to be able to get things done, including this. This is something that, quite frankly, I don't think we might have been able to do otherwise without AI. Now it's a very real possibility that within this year or the coming years afterwards, we're going to be talking with dolphins. That's that's insane. This would literally be the first time we've ever had true interspecies communication, at least as far as I'm aware of. There's some cases where, like for example, with like with certain monkeys and stuff, there's cases where they're able to communicate back using like a sort of image board that provides English responses. But I'm not talking about that either. I'm talking about literal being able to speak their language. It's possible, which is insane. That's a very interesting thing. And it's both it's both incredibly cool and also a little bit scary. It really does go to show how far this technology is coming. And again, whether you like it or hate it, this thing is improving fast, and we need to know and we need to be ready to wield it because we're going to have to. Because we're literally making something that is unequivocally smarter than us, which is going to produce some very interesting results in the future. It's already producing very interesting results now. I can only imagine where we're going to be a year from now. Probably even doing even crazier stuff. So, I don't know. It's really, really, really interesting. That is about it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this because, again, it's such an interesting thing. I find this especially intriguing. Thank you guys for watching. Take care, you guys, and remember to stay safe.